Ironheart deserves your attention. That's how I knew. I was like, oh, they are desperate to get people to watch this show. After I did my reaction, I kept getting, hey, it wasn't that bad. I just watched it. Hey, I just watched the first 3 episodes. It wasn't that bad.
She has to really reckon with what that means for the life that she wants to lead.
Ironheart might be one of the worst executed ideas ever in the MCU, because under all that garbage was actually potential.
Hollywood isn't ready for this, because what Dominique Thorne just did isn't about a contract, it's about defiance, a rebellion against the most powerful entertainment empire on Earth. For years, Disney has treated its actors like interchangeable pieces in a billion-dollar puzzle, deciding who shines, who fades, and who gets erased. But this time, they underestimated the one actress who refuses to be controlled. Dominique Thorne wasn't handed Ironheart, she fought for it. She transformed Riri Williams from a comic book page into a living, breathing icon, carrying an entire Disney Plus series on her shoulders when most people didn't even know her name. She didn't just play the role, she became it, making fans believe in a new generation of Marvel heroes. And yet, when it came time for Disney to honor that contribution, the studio made a decision that might just unravel their carefully built empire. This isn't just a story about salary or screen time. This is about one actress daring to challenge Disney's control, to speak out when others stayed silent, and to demand respect in a system designed to silence talent. At its core, this fight is about something much deeper. Whether creativity, authenticity, and representation still matter in a world where corporations pull every string. And here's the twist. Dominique wasn't bluffing. She was ready to walk away from Ironheart 2 completely, ready to risk her breakthrough role, her Marvel future, and her Hollywood career to prove a point. What happened next sent shockwaves across the industry, leaving fans and executives asking the same question. Did Dominique Thorne just expose Disney's greatest weakness?
Yeah, and it's like the real Tony Stark. It's like back somehow, and there's like a moment where she's flying through, and he's like, "Who is that?" And she's like, "I'm Ironheart, Mr. Stark." And he's like, "I like that girl." And then he like goes to do something else. Like that would be like the level of something that I think would possibly happen.
Ironheart is the biggest L of Marvel of all time. The reactions are just spectacular. Supposedly smarter than Tony Stark, bites an electric wire, sells her soul to gain magic powers, uses new powers to steal. What did the writers mean by this? Smoke detector beeps.
Ironheart is back, this time going to an uncomfortable place to...
When Disney absorbed Marvel's next wave of heroes, they expected everyone to play along with their system. Contracts were streamlined, salaries cut down, and actors told to be grateful for the opportunity. But for Dominique Thorne, this wasn't just business, it was personal. At Fox or Netflix, rising stars might get treated as collaborators. At Disney, it was different. Actors became chess pieces in a board game that never ended. Dominique, who had poured her soul into making Ironheart resonate with young audiences, saw her paycheck slashed compared to expectations. The insult was clear: Disney didn't value her. And it wasn't just about money, it was about status. Insiders whispered that Marvel executives barely consulted her on story decisions for Ironheart 2. She wasn't asked to shape her character's arc. She was told to follow orders. That cut deeper than any salary dispute. The decision was a spark waiting to ignite. Dominique realized she wasn't going to be treated as the future of Marvel, but as a disposable part of the machine. From that moment, she made a choice. If Disney wanted to strip away her voice, she'd give them something much more dangerous in return: resistance. Disney has always thrived on control. They take raw, edgy characters and smooth out the rough edges until they fit into the MCU's billion-dollar assembly line. But Ironheart wasn't built to be sanitized. She was created to be bold, rebellious, and a reflection of modern youth. Dominique knew this, and she fought for it. Executives, however, saw things differently. To them, Ironheart had to be digestible, family-friendly, and carefully aligned with the MCU's formula. Every time Dominique pitched ideas about authenticity, cultural nuance, or depth, they were dismissed. The studio wanted Ironheart to be another Iron Man clone: safe, marketable, and controlled. For Dominique, this was suffocating. She had taken on Ironheart as more than a job. It was a chance to show audiences that a young black woman could anchor a Marvel story, not as a sidekick, but as a star. Every rejection from Disney felt like they were erasing that dream. The tension grew until it was no longer hidden. Sources close to production revealed Dominique's frustration boiled over in private meetings. She wasn't just annoyed, she was devastated that the role she had fought for was being reshaped into something unrecognizable. And that's when she began whispering about something no Marvel newcomer had ever dared, asking to walk away. For most actors, a Marvel role is just another line on a resume. But for Dominique Thorne, Ironheart was her redemption arc. After years of smaller roles, she saw this as her moment to prove herself, to finally break into an industry that often ignored talent like hers. Ironheart wasn't just a character, it was her legacy. She had been attached to the role long before cameras rolled, researching Riri Williams, understanding her voice, and pushing for details that fans would notice. To Dominique, playing Ironheart wasn't acting. It was embodiment. Every scene, every line, she carried the weight of representation on her shoulders. That's why Disney's dismissiveness cuts so deep. It wasn't just another studio clash, it was a betrayal of the passion she had poured into the role. Dominique wasn't there to be molded into the MCU's formula. She was there to make Ironheart unique, and every time executives told her no, they chipped away at her vision. This obsession became both her strength and her weapon. She loved the role too much to watch it die under Disney's machine. And when the breaking point came, Dominique made it clear. She wasn't going to stay silent, and she wasn't going to be controlled. If Disney wouldn't respect Ironheart, she'd rather leave the sequel behind. Behind the closed doors of Marvel's offices, Dominique Thorne tried to fight the quiet battle. She asked for fair pay, creative respect, and a seat at the table for Ironheart's future. But the responses were always the same. Cold smiles, corporate words, and vague promises that never meant anything. Disney executives insisted that actors didn't shape franchises. Studios did. They told her the role was bigger than her, that Ironheart could live on even if she walked. To Dominique, it was the ultimate insult. She wasn't asking for power, she was asking for respect. As meetings dragged on, whispers began to leak. People close to the production said Dominique left some negotiations in tears, while others ended in fiery arguments. The walls were closing in, and she knew exactly what Disney was doing, wearing her down until she gave in. But instead of breaking, Dominique made a decision that shocked insiders. If Disney didn't value her vision, she didn't want a return for Ironheart 2 at all. That's when she dropped the bombshell. She wanted out of the sequel, even if it meant walking away from Marvel's billion-dollar empire. Dominique didn't storm Twitter with angry rants or call out Disney directly. She knew better than that. Instead, she used subtlety, the one weapon the studio couldn't block. In interviews, she cracked half jokes about how the role might not be worth the stress. But her eyes told another story. Then came the social media hints. A broken heart emoji posted on her Instagram story, a caption about chains disguised as opportunities. Fans noticed immediately. To them, these weren't random words, they were coded signals. And once they caught on, they started digging for the truth. Disney tried to dismiss it as nothing. They brushed it off as young actress nerves or internet exaggeration. But the problem was that the internet never lets go. Every time Dominique posted, fans dissected it like scripture. And every time she stayed silent, the silence screamed louder. The timing couldn't have been worse for Disney. Scarlett Johansson had just battled them over Black Widow, and the studio was terrified of another public meltdown. The last thing they needed was Dominique Thorne turning her frustration into headlines. But that's exactly what was about to happen. Once the fanbase sensed something was wrong, the floodgates opened. Reddit threads blew up with speculation. Twitter hashtags like #respect. Dominique Thorne started trending worldwide. Fans weren't just curious, they were angry, and they were ready to fight on her behalf. Petitions popped up demanding Disney give her creative control or release her from her contract. YouTube creators began posting videos about the brewing feud, painting Dominique as the underdog standing up to Hollywood's largest empire. The internet wasn't just watching anymore, it was mobilizing. And the reason was simple. Ironheart without Dominique didn't exist. She wasn't just playing the role, she was the role. Her wit, her authenticity, her vulnerability gave Riri Williams life. Fans knew that replacing her would destroy the character before it even had a chance to grow. Then, the rumors spread like wildfire. Some claimed she wanted Ironheart removed from Disney Plus altogether if negotiations failed. Whether true or not, the idea was nuclear. Disney, which had built its streaming empire on Marvel's back, suddenly faced the unthinkable, a young actress turning the fan base against them. By the time the standoff reached its peak, Hollywood insiders stopped calling it a dispute. They called it a mutiny. One young actress, barely at the start of her career, standing up to the most powerful entertainment company in the world. And the wildest part? She wasn't backing down. Dominique knew exactly how much power she held. She didn't need to scream or slam doors. Instead, she made quiet but devastating threats. Sources claimed she hinted she would step back from promoting Ironheart too. For Disney, that was catastrophic. The character's survival depended on her face, her energy, her authenticity. Her silence alone was a weapon. Marvel had built entire campaigns around her introduction, branding her as the future of the MCU. Without her on red carpets, without her hyping the role, Ironheart would crash before it even left the runway. Dominique didn't have to lift a finger. Just standing still shook Disney's empire. And then came the whispers that stunned everyone. Dominique had formally asked to be released from Ironheart too. Fans thought it was just speculation at first. But when insiders confirmed it, the internet exploded. Marvel's carefully planned new era was falling apart, and the rebellion had a face. Disney had lawyers, contracts, and endless resources to keep actors in line. But Dominique had something far more dangerous. The internet. Every cryptic post, every half-smile in an interview could ignite a firestorm. And once fans chose a side, no amount of corporate spin could save Disney's image. Executives knew it. They had watched Scarlett Johansson crush them in court. They had seen how quickly online narratives turned studios into villains. With Dominique, the risk was even greater. She wasn't just another actress. She represented authenticity, diversity, and the very future Marvel had promised audiences. Behind the scenes, journalists began circling. Activists started asking questions. Was Disney exploiting young black talent? Were they silencing creative voices while cashing in on representation? The optics were brutal, and Disney knew they couldn't win that war in the court of public opinion. At the same time, Marvel creators' families were suing Disney for fair credit and royalties. The narrative wrote itself. The biggest studio in the world, squeezing out the very people who made them successful. Dominique's rebellion wasn't just her fight anymore. It became part of a much larger story, one that terrified the Mouse House. For the first time in years, Disney didn't look invincible. Executives debated whether to keep Dominique at all costs or let her walk and risk a PR disaster. Either choice was dangerous. Lose her, and Ironheart was dead. Keep her, and she'd keep reminding the world that she refused to be controlled. Behind closed doors, Marvel insiders admitted something shocking. Dominique was irreplaceable. The studio could swap actors for Spider-Man or Captain America, but Ironheart was different. She wasn't just written by Disney, she was brought to life by Dominique's presence. Without her, there was nothing left. That reality terrified executives. For decades, Disney's power came from the belief that no actor was bigger than the brand. But Dominique shattered that myth. She was young, untested compared to Marvel veterans, yet she had managed to bend the most powerful studio in the world into a corner. Whichever way the fight ended, one truth was undeniable. Dominique Thorne had exposed Disney's greatest weakness. They weren't untouchable anymore. They weren't in control anymore. A single actress had proven that the empire could bleed. In the end, Dominique Thorne did what nobody thought possible. She turned whispers of frustration into a movement, forcing Disney to confront the one thing it feared most, losing control of the story. Whether she left Ironheart 2 or stayed on her own terms, the message was clear. She wasn't a puppet. This was bigger than a paycheck, bigger than a contract. Dominique became a symbol of resistance, showing fans and fellow actors alike that even the smallest voice could shake the loudest empire. Ironheart wasn't just a role anymore, it was a rebellion, one that had spilled off the screen and into reality. Disney walked away bruised, their image dented, and their grip on the MCU's future weakened. Dominique walked away as more than an actress. She became Ironheart in real life, a hero daring to defy the system, even if it cost her everything. And the irony couldn't be sharper. The studio that built its empire on superheroes had just been challenged by one of its own. So the question remains, did Disney win by keeping its machine intact, or did Dominique Thorne win by proving that no machine can silence authenticity? One thing's for sure, Hollywood will never look at her the same way again.